Hello and welcome to Always Bored, Never Boring. I am a huge fan of skirmish games. Give me a handful of interesting characters and a rival team to crush and I am a happy man. And of all the skirmish games I enjoy, the Unmatched series is near the top. I think Unmatched is a superb design, but it didn't get that way overnight. It is actually the third iteration of a design that first appeared in 2002 when Milton Bradley, a subsidiary of Hasbro at that time, published Star Wars Epic Duels. This game came out at the same time as Attack of the Clones and gives you the chance to recreate famous duels from any of the Star Wars films made up to that point, as long as you don't want to recreate any involving Qui-Gon Jinn. The game was designed by Rob Daviau and Craig Van Ness, names that many people will recognise because of their work for Hasbro on games like Heroescape, The Queen's Gambit and many more. I have recently done a video unboxing Epic Duels, so if you're interested to know exactly what you get in the box, you may want to check out that video first. But today, I am going to very quickly run through the core gameplay experience and how it has evolved into the Unmatched system of today. In Epic Duels there are 12 playable characters, 6 each from 2 opposing factions. Each character has 1 or 2 minor characters to accompany them into battle, a deck of 31 action cards, and a character sheet for tracking wounds. One player selects a character from the light side, the other player selects a character from the dark side. Players then mutually agree on one of the 4 battle arenas. Arenas specify the starting space for the 12 main characters. Once both players have placed their main character, they roll a dice. The player who rolls highest places their minor characters adjacent to their main character, then the other player does the same. The player who rolled highest is also the first player. Both players then draw a hand of 4 cards from their own deck and they are ready to fight. On their turn, a player first rolls the custom dice for movement. If they roll a green number, 3, 4 or 5, they select just one of their characters to move up to that number of spaces. If they roll a red number, 2, 3 or 4, they can move each of their characters up to that number of spaces. The idea of the dice roll is, I guess, to add some randomness, and to ensure you can't always perfectly carry out your planned actions. Fair enough, but it is the type of rule that can really hose you if you keep rolling low numbers, or you can only activate one of your characters while your opponent is consistently able to move their whole team. Arenas are divided into grids and characters can only move orthogonally. Also, they can't move through enemy characters or blocked spaces. The most important thing to be aware of when moving is how to get into an attack position. Any character can attack an enemy they are adjacent to, either orthogonally or diagonally. Additionally, some characters have blasters which will allow them to attack at range. To do this, they must be able to draw a straight line orthogonally or diagonally to the target. This is a bit weird and will take some getting used to, because there will be situations where you think you can attack when you can't, and situations where you think you can't when you can. Here, for example, our Stormtrooper cannot shoot Kenobi because you cannot draw a direct line to him along any of the 8 cardinal directions. However, if you move Kenobi 1 space to the left or right, bingo, he's fair game. Meanwhile, if Kenobi was here, you may think he's safe, but as you can draw a direct line diagonally between the 2 clone troopers, you can still shoot him. Having finished moving, it's time to take actions. A player must perform 2 actions from a choice of 3, and they can pick the same action twice if they want to. One action is drawing a card from their deck into their hand. This is a really neat mechanism because besides special abilities certain characters have, this action is the only way to get more cards into your hand, and that gives the gameplay a very pleasant ebb and flow. Sometimes you have a lot of cards, a maximum of 10 at any one time. You can push hard and attack repeatedly each turn. Other times, you may need to sit back a little, sift your deck, load cards into your hand ready for the next surge of effort. It gives the game a genuine sense of being a duel, a thoughtful tactical blend of attacking and defending. The second action is only available if a player has lost all of their minor characters. Healing. Each deck contains cards that the major character uses and cards that the minor character uses. If the major character dies, that player is out of the game, but if minor characters die, the player can continue. The problem there is the player's hand will start to clog up with cards for minor characters that are no longer playable. In that situation, a player can use an action to discard one of those cards and restore 1 life point to a major character. The final action is playing a card, and this is the heart of the gameplay. Each deck contains combat cards, power combat cards, and special cards. Combat cards have an attack and defense value, making them the most versatile cards in the deck. If you want to attack someone with one of these cards, you must be in a legal attack position, and you must spend 1 action to place the card face down on the table. The other player then has the option of playing a card face up on the table to defend if they wish to. The attacker then flips their card to reveal their attack strength. The defense value, if any, on the defender's card is deducted from the attack strength, and the remainder is applied to the target as damage, which is recorded with a token on the character sheet. If the defense value matches or exceeds the attack value, then the defender has successfully blocked the attack. So far, so straightforward. But adding a wrinkle to that very simple system are the power combat cards. These cards don't always have an attack and defense value, often it's one or the other, but what they do have are special powers at the bottom of the card. For example, they may let you inflict more damage under certain conditions, counter-attack if you successfully block, take a free movement, or push an enemy into another space on the board. If the attacker and defender both play power cards, the attacker's special effect is resolved first. The third type of card is the special card. These aren't played in combat, but they can be played at any time after movement. They provide a range of effects, including additional movement and drawing more cards. And that really is it in terms of rules. The game continues in rounds until only 1 main character is alive or 1 player burns through their deck twice, which can happen in closely contested games between cagey players. The rules do also include variants for team play with 4 or 6 players, a free-for-all variant for up to 6 players, and a master play variant for 2 or 4 players where each player controls 2 main characters. But the core gameplay remains fairly consistent. Roll the dice, move characters, perform 2 actions. And it's a good game, no frills but solid, with an excellent card-based combat system that incorporates bluffing and hand management. Really, it's only let down by the possibility of the dice roll for movement picking apart your best laid plans and the quality of the components being rather poor. 2 years later, in 2004, Craig Van Ness reworked the Epic Duels system for a reskinned edition, Transformers Armada Battle for Cybertron game. And this was mainly the same game, with the same rules, catering for 2-player games, 4 or 6-player team games, 2 to 6-player free-for-all games, and 2 or 4-player master play games in which each player controls 2 Transformers. There were some noticeable improvements in the component quality. You still got the same thin playing cards and boards, but the custom dice with stickers was replaced with a screen-printed dice, and the pre-painted Transformer pieces were significantly larger, more detailed, and better painted than the old Star Wars characters. However, this version of the game was also streamlined, simplified, which did harm the tactical gameplay and the replayability. Instead of having 12 playable characters, each with their own minor character allies, you only have a choice of 8 characters. 4 Autobots and 4 Decepticons, and there are no minor characters at all. Each character fights alone. This is a huge change that impacts the gameplay in very noticeable ways. Firstly, cards in a deck are no longer divided between major characters and minor characters. All 31 cards are usable by the Transformer in question. That means you are never starved for useful cards, hand management is less important, and the healing action, whereby you discard a minor character card to heal your major character, has been removed from the rules completely. With only 2 available actions on a turn, draw a card or play a card, each turn presents you with less options. You have less decisions to make, and you never have to make that tough choice between drawing a card into your hand or healing. Additionally, all 8 characters can now attack in close combat and at range, so you lose that interplay between characters with blasters and characters with lightsabers. You don't get some characters employing kiting tactics while others try to close in and block an opponent's movement. A lot of the game's asymmetry is lost for the sake of simplicity. Finally, the issues presented by the custom dice in Epic Duels are compounded in Transformers Armada. The idea with the dice is that the highest possible result, 5, only lets you activate 1 character, while the lowest possible result, 2, lets you activate all of your characters. This way there is some kind of balance. but in Transformers Armada, each player usually only controls one character, which means that balance goes out of the window. Getting a 5 is always going to be better than getting a 2. There is no positive to offset the negative of a low dice roll. The only exception to this is when you are playing the Master rules, where each player controls 2 Transformers and rolling an all result on the dice will let you move both Transformers on the same turn. Really, I think the dice system needed to be revised for Transformers, perhaps with low results letting you draw a card into your hand. Those things aside, the game is much the same, with the first player to lose a Transformer losing the match, regardless of how many Transformers they control. Additionally, as in Epic Duels, if any player burns through their deck twice, the game also ends, with the player who has taken the most damage being the loser. Overall, I think it's reasonable to say that Transformers Armada was a backstep. It had improvements, better miniatures, better art on the cards, and a better dice, but it lost so much by removing the minor characters, and I don't think it did enough to offset that loss. I do like both games a lot. There is a simple pleasure in being able to fight duels between your favourite Star Wars or Transformers characters. However, both games pale in comparison to the final form of the concept, Unmatched. Unmatched is the work of Rob Daviau and was published by Restoration Games as a title restoring the combat system from Epic Duels and the pathfinding system from Tannhauser, another skirmish game I would love to add to my collection one day. The result is immaculate. In Unmatched, characters from different movies, books, comics, myths and legends compete in arenas to see who is the greatest of all time. Each character gets a deck of 30 cards and one character card, and is represented on the board with excellent miniatures that have a simple wash to bring out the details. Most characters also have sidekicks, allies like the minor characters in Epic Duels, but they are represented on the board by simple tokens. Characters' health is tracked with dials, and each player starts with a hand of 5 cards. Arenas still specify starting spaces for players, but instead of the simple square-based grid of Epic Duels, the Unmatched boards use a system inspired by Tannhauser. Spaces connected by a line are adjacent, and spaces that share the same colour are in the same zone. So, if you have a card that allows you to attack an enemy in the same zone, as long as you and that enemy are in spaces that share the same colour, you know the attack is legal. Unmatched doesn't make use of dice at all, and I think most people would consider that an improvement over Epic Duels. Instead, on their turn a player must take 2 actions from a choice of 3. It is possible to take the same action twice. The first choice is Maneuver. This means drawing 1 card from their deck and then optionally moving their fighters. Fighters, that is the main character and any sidekicks they may have, can each move up to the move value stated on the character card. Additionally, players can use a boost, which is a new mechanism for Unmatched. Boosting means discarding 1 card from their hand to add the boost value from the bottom right of the card to their movement value. All told, the Maneuver action combines the movement and draw actions from Epic Duels, but in a way that makes it easier for you to control what you are going to do on your turn. It is important to note that drawing a card is not optional. If you want to move, you must first draw a card, and if you don't have any cards in your deck, you instead take 2 unblockable damage. If a character is ever reduced to 0 health, their opponent wins, so running out of cards is bad news. And this rule is fantastic, as it prevents players from playing too defensively. Eventually, players will run out of cards and start taking damage. If they want to win, they are going to have to be a bit more aggressive about it. Of course, this also stops games running too long. The second action is Scheme. This lets a player use a card with a lightning bolt symbol. Each card will specify whether the scheme is playable by the character or by one of their sidekicks. This is the equivalent of playing a special card in Epic Duels. Finally, players can use the attack action. Any fighter adjacent to an enemy can declare an attack. Additionally, any fighters with the ranged attack ability, indicated by an arrow on their character card, can declare an attack on an enemy adjacent to them or an enemy in any space in the same zone. Combat is much the same as in previous iterations of the system. The attacker places a card face down, then the defender can place a defense card face down in response if they wish to. Note that some cards are versatile and can be used for attack or defense. Cards are revealed simultaneously. Any effects on cards that occur immediately are resolved. Then any effects that occur during combat are resolved. Finally, the combat is resolved with the total defense being deducted from the total attack. If any damage gets through the defense, the damage is recorded by the defender. After that, any after combat effects are resolved. Ultimately, combat in Unmatched is more sophisticated. Almost every combat card has a special effect, so almost every card is what in Epic Duels would be considered a power combat card. And because there are so many special rules flying around, every fighter feels special. They are all unique, they all do something no one else can do. That does make Unmatched trickier to get to grips with, there is more to learn, but it is exactly what the Unmatched system needs. Every fighter should be unique. The hook the system hangs off, the hook that allows Unmatched to support countless sets, each of which is a standalone product and an expansion, is significantly weakened if any two characters feel too similar. I would say that Unmatched takes all the tactical nuance of Epic Duels, but adds in the free-form fluidity of the pathfinding system, removes the randomness of the dice-based movement, and makes every character feel unique. It is, in all ways, for my money at least, the best version of the system. I am just waiting for an Unmatched set containing characters from Star Wars. Money is waiting. And that is it from me for now. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, please consider pressing the like button. If you really like this video, please consider subscribing if you don't already do so. And hopefully, I will see you all again very soon. Bye bye everyone. Bye bye.